listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
I wanna see the light.
Well, good Monday morning, if you're listening on a Monday morning. If you're not, happy whatever day it is to you whenever you hear it. So I know a lot of people that listen don't often have the opportunity to listen when we're live, and they listen later, and we appreciate that. So whenever you get the chance, we're happy you're here.
Yes, we are.
My name is Jerry Mitchell, your host for Give God 90. Sitting in the supervisor's chair is Myra.
Hi, everyone.
And today we got something a little strange in the United States, sort of. It's turned into something strange. We'll get into more on that in a minute. If you're new here, we appreciate it. Check out the website, givegod90.com. There's all kinds of good stuff going on there. If you like what you hear, we really appreciate the shares and the likes and that kind of thing. If you'd like to leave us a comment, you can do so either directly on the podcast if you have the Spreaker app, or if you look up Give God 90, we're on a lot of different social media. So, let us know what you think or whatever. I've often been kind of jokingly, when I get done speaking somewhere, I will say, are there any questions, comments, or smart remarks? So, take that as you may. In the United States today, we have a federal holiday. It's Labor Day. Okay, and it is a U.S. federal holiday, meaning that the United States government passed legislation that all federal employees have the day off. They don't have to work today. It should be a good thing, right? I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to say this. Anytime that our government has a day off, they can't screw anything up. Because they're just not there to do it, right? But it also represents the unofficial end of summer, the summer vacation season, I should say, because school children in the United States have about 60 days where they don't go to school in the summer. And that, of course, goes back to the time when they were primarily involved in agriculture, and they needed to be there through the summertime to raise crops. Later on, a lot of things were done in the summertime, and children were needed by the families, either for factory work or production work of some type. Then, our modern times, we just haven't really changed that tradition. There's really no reason for children not to be in school year-round now. It's just something that in the United States we for some reason give kids the summer off. And now is a time that we begin a fall season. Right? We're getting into that harvest time for agriculture, and all the stores and that kind of thing are gearing up for their wintertime sales, promotions, and that kind of thing. So we take a day off to celebrate work. I mean, that's basically what it is. Our representatives, our elected representatives, don't meet for business. There's no mail service. Government offices are not open. Again, not always a bad thing. But it's kind of odd that we take a day off to celebrate work. And the funny thing is, Labor Day began as a day to celebrate the achievements of the American worker, the people who actually get work done, right? The labor unions had a tremendous amount of influence in creating a federal holiday. And many, many companies who have workers that are members of trade unions, they actually do stop. They shut down operations for the day. However, a lot of people who are not represented by a union are not always so fortunate. We have family members who work in the service industry, and they have to show up and work today. They don't get a day off. We know people who own businesses. Their businesses are open because they don't get a day off. People who work in places like grocery stores, department stores, and smaller family businesses still have to go to work. Now, our hospitals remain open, but a lot of times the regular doctors and dentists, they're going to be closed today. So a holiday that was supposed to be dedicated to the achievements of the worker has become a holiday where many workers have to work, while people like our representatives and other people don't. Mankind, I can say it this way, has been instructed to work since Genesis chapter 2, verse 15, when God said to the man, God created the man, and he put him in the Garden of Eden to dress it and keep it. That was his work. Then something happened. We can call this the forbidden fruit event, if you want to give it that name. And it caused us to do much more difficult work, right? In Genesis 3:19, it says, "By the sweat of your face will you eat bread." Mankind has been cursed now to work. Instead of being in that perfect place where all we had to do was just to make sure that things were running smoothly, well, they're no longer running smoothly. Now we have to work very, very hard just to eat. So this weekend way we work now has been happening for almost 6,000 years, with a few exceptions, of course. There's someone who may have worked more than most others at his time. Myra's going to read a story about someone who was a very diligent and hard worker. Go ahead.
People on earth did what God said was evil. Violence was everywhere, and God saw this evil. All people on earth did only evil. So God said to Noah, "People have made the earth full of violence, so I will destroy all the people from the earth. Build a boat of cypress wood for yourself. Make rooms in it and cover it inside and outside with tar. This is how big I want you to build the boat. 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, 45 feet high. Make an opening around the top of the boat. Make it 18 inches high from the edge of the roof down. Put a door on the side of the boat. Make an upper, middle, and lower deck in it. I will bring a flood of water to the earth. I will destroy all living things that live under the sky. This includes everything that has breath of life. Everything on the earth will die. But I will make an agreement with you. You, your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives will all go into the boat. Also, you must bring into the boat 2 of every living thing, male and female. Keep them alive with you. There will be 2 of every kind of bird, animal, and crawling thing. They will come to you to be kept alive. Also, gather some of every kind of food. Store it on the boat for you and the animals. Noah did everything God commanded him. Genesis 6:11 through 22.
Now, the International Children's Bible gives you a very generic and simplified and probably oversimplified narration of this. Of course, there were 2 of every kind except the clean animals, which were 7 of every kind, and things like that. The point I want to make is that Noah had to build a boat, a big boat, the biggest boat ever of that time. But along with doing that, sawing the lumber, felling the trees, sawing the lumber, putting everything together. And along with all of that, he also was responsible for gathering food for everything. Now, that's a lot of work for somebody to do, right? And then after the flood, think about this. After the flood, mankind needed to replenish the earth, and we had to work at it, right? I mean, there's more to it than just, be fruitful and multiply.
Right.
You got to do something with that. But it's interesting that the first major work event mentioned in Scripture after the flood was to build something that would fail, right? That was the first major construction problem. It was the tower on the plains of Shinar, known as the Tower of Babel, or Babel, depending on how you want to pronounce it. But after the confusion of the language, the people actually did spread out to cover the world, and they had to work to accomplish that. You know, it takes work to travel. It takes work to explore. It takes work to go do things and begin a life somewhere. The people did take with them the skills of working with wood and with metal, planting, harvesting, that kind of thing, everything that they would need. They took skills with weaving to help clothe them, skills of animal husbandry that would keep their flocks healthy. All of these things were necessary to keep mankind moving forward. Then, this fellow named Abram married his half-sister Sarai, right? And the Bible didn't say exactly what Abram's skill was, but it does tell us what his skill would be. Abram, who would become Abraham, would be a shepherd of flocks and of people. He protected Sarai, later known as Sarah, of course. He protected his nephew Lot and even his servants. He trusted the Creator completely, going as far as to trust him to provide a sacrifice instead of Isaac. And of course, that leads us to one of the greatest labor lessons in the Bible: the enslavement of the Hebrew people in Egypt. We all recognize the labor of the people as slaves, but before that, prior to that, they still had to work. Even though the family of that great Joseph, he saved Egypt. His family was treated very well at first. They had to work to survive. They just didn't get everything handed to them like they were royalty. They had to do things. But they were pretty much free to do the things that they needed to do. It wasn't until their children's children and their children felt that they were entitled did things begin to go wrong. We were so, Joseph was so great. Our parents and grandparents, great-grandparents, they tell us how wonderful Joseph was and how Pharaoh treated him, how he invited us in here. Why do we have to work? They got, boastful. They got proud. They got, the Bible alludes to this in English, but if you read it in Hebrew, it makes a lot more sense. They felt entitled. And that is when they became slaves to the government of Egypt, and they had to work even harder. There's a lesson in here for young people in the United States today if you're willing to learn it, okay? Just saying. If you become too boastful, too proud, you don't want to do anything, you will be a slave to your government. It's that simple. All right, moving forward. Think about the prophets. Do you think that all the prophets did all day was just sit around and listen to God and repeat what he said? Of course not. The prophets that are named in the Bible had jobs that required them to work. Ezekiel was a priest. He was serving in the priesthood, doing the things he was doing prior to, the Almighty poking his finger in his chest and saying, I got something to tell you. Think about that. Ezekiel didn't just sit around waiting. He had things he was doing. Amos, the prophet Amos, was a shepherd, and he was a farmer of figs. The Bible doesn't specifically say that Isaiah was a priest, but there's enough information there that we can extract and speculate just a little, without a lot of extrapolation, that he would have been a priest. Moses was himself military trained in the house of the Pharaoh in Egypt, later to become a shepherd. Each of the people in the Bible had to work to earn their food. They didn't just sit around and wait to get paid for doing nothing. They didn't sit around, well, you should do this, you should do that, you go here, you go there. That wasn't their job. Even the disciples that followed Yeshua, Jesus, most of them were fishermen, right? Even Yeshua himself was a trained, I know a lot of people say carpenter, but he was a smith. There was nothing he couldn't work on. There was nothing he couldn't fix. Think about that. Now, while other nations around Israel had paid standing armies, they had professional soldiers. Israel's army was the people itself. They weren't paid military, but when the need arose, the army that they formed under the direction of the kings and of the Almighty was made up of nothing more than people with everyday skills. Think of the people who raised the barley, the wheat, the fruit, the flax, and the other crops. The people who took those crops, turned them into flour, linen, and other things. Even the domesticated animals had to work. There were no pets in the Bible. They mention these because animals were needed not for companionship, but for work. The ox needed to pull a plow. It needed to move the grain mill. The donkeys and other things, they moved people around. And these people worked hard. It wasn't easy. When I was young, my grandfather, he was born in 1895. When he was a young man, he used to talk about grain and fertilizer coming. It was shipped in 200-pound bags. Now, for those people using the metric system, that's about 90 kilograms. 90 kilos, I think is what they say, right? When I was young, thankfully, they changed that, and that kind of thing came in 100-pound bags or 45 kilos. Today, they're either in like 20 or 25-pound bags or 50-pound bags, which is, about 22 kilos or something like that for the 50-pound bag, and less than that for the 25. You see, the farther we are from creation, the farther we are from the Creator, the weaker we are, and quite honestly, the dumber we are as well. We don't think we work hard anymore. We think it's work to go out and play sports. And while some people are very talented athletes, that's really not work, is it? Several nations have something similar to what we call Labor Day, where they celebrate their workers, they celebrate the achievements of the people in the nation. But think about this. The Creator himself celebrates our work one day every week. Would you like to read the portion from Exodus?
Remember to keep the Sabbath day as a holy day. You may work and get everything done during 6 days each week, but the seventh day is to rest, to honor the Lord your God. On that day, no one may do any work, not you, not your son, your daughter, or your men or women slaves. Neither your animals nor your foreigners living in your cities may work. The reason is that in 6 days the Lord made everything. He made the sky, the earth, the sea, everything in them. And on the seventh day he rested. So the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Exodus 28:11.
Yep, that's right. One day every week, we're to rest from our work. Not just one day a year. To celebrate work. But one day every week to stop, take a breath, thank the Creator for everything He's done for us. It's not something that the government can give us or take away from us. It was instructed by the one who designed us. It's not something that only affects a very few people. Right? You know, our Labor Day, as I described, really doesn't affect everyone. What the Creator's laying down here affects everyone. It's so important that while other, what we call feast days, happen either once a month or once a year, this happens one time every week. The Sabbath rest is to be done every week. From sundown on what we now call Friday until sundown on Saturday, we stop our regular work and we rest. Now, while as a nation, it's good to recognize the achievements of the people who work to keep a society moving forward, as believers, it is vitally important that we make certain to stop and recognize our Creator for the things that He allows us to achieve. When we take the time to stop and simply say, thank you. When we take the time to stop, you know, as I've said before, if you're working in His service, that is a form of worship. So it's not like we're stopping to worship, even though we can. It's time to take a breath, rest, recharge your batteries, and get back in that place where you're ready to meet the next week. So as we take a day to celebrate the achievements of our workers in the United States, wherever you're listening, United States or other places, don't forget to take that one day a week to rest and recharge and celebrate not your achievements, but the achievements of your Creator. Did you have anything you wanted to add to all that?
Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you on Thursday.
Absolutely. Until then, many, many blessings, everyone.